Okay, I think we have a pretty good idea now of how to use both Prisma and Drizzle in a fairly simple way. Let's take a look now at how to do things that are a bit more complex, which involve relations. Let's review our Prisma schema to start. So we have our schema here. Again, we have post, we have user, and category as our three models, our three tables. And they're fairly simple. Post has ID, title, content, all of type string. Once we get to author down here, we see that it points to something called user, which is the user model down here. Then we're using this @relation attribute to set up how those are connected. So the connection looks like this. We've got author ID, which is another field here on our post table, is going to be the user ID that's going to come from the ID column here in the user model. And that's how we're going to say that a post belongs to a user. And this kind of relation here is a one-to-many between post and user. One user can have many posts. And the way that I like to kind of visualize that is if I've got something plural down here, so posts plural, and it is pointing to another model, and then I've got my square brackets like this, I know that that's going to be a one-to-many or potentially a many-to-many relationship. So we've got user and post. That's a one-to-many. Let's take a look now between category and post to get a sense of what many-to-many look like. So there are a couple different ways we can do many-to-many relationships in our schema, but the most straightforward way is to allow Prisma to handle it kind of virtually. And what that looks like is simply to say a post is going to have many categories, and then on the other side, a category is going to have many posts, just like this. Now, there's nothing in the schema here that gives us our pivot table or our table that represents the relationship between those two, the many-to-many relationship, but Prisma is going to take care of putting that table into place when we run our migration or our DB push. And just to get a sense of that, we've got three things here, so potentially three tables in our database, but if we go over to the database, up here we've got this other one called category to post, and Prisma handled that for us, and inside we've got column A, column B, that's a many-to-many relationship. That's a pivot table to fulfill that relationship. So that's how relationships work in our Prisma schema. Fairly simple. Things are in line like this. It's really easy to see what relates to what. And once we've got things set up, we can go and use it. So what we can do if we want to start to use those relations is we can do things like, let's say we wanted to include the author here. We can do include author true. If we have that in place, what we should get when we run it, so we can do npm run dev Prisma, we'll get our result set, our posts, but we'll also have this new key called author, which points to the author from the database. We could also include categories, so we can say categories is true. We'll run that again. Here we get our categories. They are objects here. We'd have to do a JSON stringify to see it here on the screen, but those are the category records from the database. We can use some details here from our related tables to do some filtering on our initial table that we're going for, which is our post table in this case. So let's say we wanted to get only the posts that have this author ID, so this very specific author ID. What we can do for that is we can say, give us our posts where author, so we can do it two ways, either author ID is that, and if we run it, we should get just a subset. All right, so there we go. Or what we can do is we can say where the author has an ID of that ID. Let's say we wanted to query on our categories table instead. So let's comment this out, and we're going to actually work with categories now. So const categories equals awaits Prisma category find many. And let's say we wanted to include the many-to-many relation between category and post. We could say include, just like we did before, posts true. All right, so let's log this out and take a look at what we get. Running this again gives us our categories plus the posts that are within. Let's do that JSON stringify thing. So JSON stringify our categories. And then we'll do null and 2 for our spacing, just so we can see what's inside there. Okay, so we've got our posts that sit within our category. So there's posts right there, and this top level thing is a category. What we can do here, since this is many-to-many, is we could also say within posts, we could include categories true. And so this would be a valid call to Prisma, and we would get everything kind of nested. So post gives us categories. And the thing about this many-to-many relation is we could keep going if we wanted to. We could do include posts true, and that would be another level of nesting. And this could go on and on. There's no real reason that we would want to use this in the real world probably, but it is possible because we've got a many-to-many relationship set up like this. All right, so I think we get the sense of how relations work with Prisma, both how we define them on the model and also how we use them when we go to query for our data. We won't take a look quite yet at how we deal with relations when it comes to creating new data with Prisma or updating data. We will see that a bit later. First, let's take a look at how to do simple relation work with Drizzle.